Hey there, this is Ashley Avis. I am here on the ground in Australia, and I wanted to put out a message to anyone who's watching this. For anyone that has information surrounding the Brumby cull, anyone who has information about the shooting of the Palomino stallion and his family, and for anyone who is bold enough to speak, any of the shooters, anybody who has been a shooter, anyone in the parks that knows what is going on with the Brumbies is egregious and knows that this is wrong, I'd really like to talk to you. As a journalist, I can maintain confidentiality. We can distort your voice. We need people to stand up. And I also have a message for the individual who approached me a few days ago in Jindabyne at 6 a.m. within the BP station. The person who asked me if I was the girl on Facebook going on about the bloody Brumbies. It was very aggressive. And I think that somebody like you, if you are willing to talk to me about what your stance is on the Brumbies, we would like to hear from anyone who has information about what is going on in the park and anyone who is bold enough to speak, even if you don't agree with the compassionate solutions that we're putting forth. Contact at wildbeautyfoundation.org.
Button. I think we are live right now. We're set up here, just absolutely magnificent. We'll find out where we are. Of course, we're in Jindabyne, as the location says so. We're broadcasting live this week from the Snowy Mountains to try and understand the New South Wales government's heartless campaign to rid this area of Brumbies. Now, the colours come to a temporary close, but the carnage will continue in November. Now, this isn't a fringe issue or environmental issue. There are other factors at play, much that we don't know. Whatever the reasons, these killings show a profound disregard for Australians by politicians and their hangers-on. And they are under no pressure at all. So let's talk. Who are the politicians standing for Australian values and decency? There aren't many. Angus Taylor, the federal Liberal leader, popped his head up recently, but his party and the New South Wales Shadow Minister for Environment and Shadow Minister for Heritage, Jackie Munro, does not impress and is not on top of this area of her portfolio. And we saw Angus Taylor. He did a great job a couple of times on video. Once at a protest, another one outside Parliament. We thought he'd be a great guest to get on because he is enunciating some of the atrocities and the intrusion into the Australian way of life. We've asked him to come on several times and he's nothing yet. So hopefully Angus Taylor will come on. I do admire what he's saying, but words are very cheap. We need to have more than just words. We need actually action. So Angus, if you wish to come on, we are here. We will contact you again. A bit like a machine gun, but we'll keep trying and trying, or like Chinese water torture. And we're also going to talk about park management today, ecology, our country, and are they intent of taking away our entire, what we've known Australia to be? I think they are. I think there's a 2030 agenda, which is all over the federal government's website. It talks about basically joining at the hip with the UN. And I think by 2030, we're going to have an entirely different Australia than what we ever envisaged. Now, Instant Polls is our official sponsor. If you want to increase your bottom line, boost your communication with frontline staff and gather valuable data from your most important resource, that's your employees, visit instantpolls.online to learn more. Today's poll on the Country Telegraph is, which would you consider is the most neglected by governments in rural areas? Just use the QR code on our screen to vote. Each vote is secure and anonymous and verified by 2FA. Now, you have 24 hours to vote before the result is broadcast on the Country Telegraph at 1 o'clock tomorrow. The link will also be published on our Facebook page from 11 o'clock. Share the link and ask your family and friends to participate. We're going to talk about many of the issues around the park. I'm going to talk to Brett Smith in just a tick. And that's right here, by the way, on the Country Telegraph.
Australians are paying more and getting less.
Energy security is economic security. Economic security is national security.
We sit on vast reserves of coal, oil and gas, but we are not fuel secure.
Policy unmoored from physics and economic reality has turned an energy-rich land into a decadent state.
No sector is being asked to bear more than agriculture and regional communities.
We are willfully turning a rich nation into a poorer one.
To keep Australia prosperous, sovereign and free is our duty, and in an uncertain world, our best defence.
I didn't choose this life. I was born to live it. So was Dad, Pa, his dad, and his dad before that.
Come on, ladies.
You're supposed to be slowing down, you know.
It's payback for all the free labour you got out of me as a kid.
Ah.
I learned from watching my mum and dad and how they work together. So does my sister Sally.
Any trains? I don't. Feet up.
I'll always remember these days. It's the happiest days of my life. Together as a family.
Oh, you're so lucky I love you.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that about right, is it?
I don't know how you're going to deal with all this.
Deal with what?
$6 million debt?
Most farmers are in this amount of debt. As farmers, we gamble with the weather every day, and it's a risk we take.
You have no idea what I'm going through. Maybe you should talk to someone. Oh my God, no, I'm fine. No, you're not, Alison.
You and your dad's coward.
Play a game of footy, all right?
Where's heaven?
What?
Where's heaven?
The sky, I think.
Can we go there?
And we're back again, Cam. You were a bit early on that one, but never mind. We still get there. Our host and guest today is Brett Smith, retired AFP detective and Snowy Mountains local emergency manager. Prior to his policing career, Brett spent 3 years as a National Park Ranger. Brett is the proprietor of Moonbar Huts, a pair of luxury off-grid log and stone cabins in the New South Wales Snowy Mountains. Thought I could get my MX-5 here until I saw those potholes. You would have seen me go down one and not come out. So thank you very much to Peter Cochrane for lending us his four-wheel drive. We did need it. Brett came to our attention last month when we read a sad post lamenting the loss of the animals he regarded as an intrinsic part of his landscape. Brett, thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Mike.
Tell me about your the Moonbar Huts, first of all. It's not just a great place to stay. It really does remind you of what Australia was and probably should be.
Yeah, well, I guess it's something I always, loved as a kid, the old huts of the high country, and, it wasn't really a well-planned dream. It just sort of happened. I always wanted to be here, but building the huts just happened, and yeah, I'm glad it did. It's been really rewarding, to be honest.
We'll play a video over the top of this interview, and it just shows you you're sitting out somewhere around here, and you went up, or you slowly moved towards a Brumby, and the Brumby looked at you and took you into its confidence, and then basically became your friend. How can we do what we're doing to the Brumbies at the moment? Because I don't understand it. I think the whole thing is an abomination, because these animals, besides being beautiful, highly intelligent, and some have said, so what? But they're part of our history or heritage, and you go right back to the First World War. So we really do need to look after these magnificent animals, and to be described as a feral. I mean, that's the last thing these animals are, isn't it?
Yeah, well, in my opinion and many others, that's certainly the case. I mean, I'm not a horse person per se. I've never owned a horse. I've never ridden horses. But you know, I love all animals, and I'd never stand by and watch an animal be tortured or, you know, be cruelly treated and not speak up. I couldn't live with myself if I did. And I think, you know, I'm not an complete extreme animal liberationist. We eat the deer here occasionally.
Poor deer.
Poor deer, yeah.
Deer.
I actually feel sorry every time I do it, but you know, I reconcile that with the fact that, you know, the alternative for someone who eats meat is to go into Woolies and, you know, buy a packet of beef or whatever. And you know, it's obvious that the cattle suffer, if you're comparing the two, you know, more than the deer that we harvest here on occasion. But yeah, it's not something I like doing. So, you know, I guess some would argue that there's some hypocrisy in there, but the horses, they're just another level with their intelligence. Sure, their history and their heritage and what they've done in the formation of this country, really. But probably above all that is the fact that this, you know, I've done a lot of shooting in my life, and you know, I consider myself an expert in shooting. The aerial culling cannot be done in a humane fashion, and anyone asserts that it can is simply lying. It's, you know, it's not something that's a subjective argument. It just can't be done. There's only one way to kill a horse and render it insensible with a rifle, and that's, you know, on the ground with the rifle against its head. And yeah, it's just, there's no argument in that aspect of this debate for me whatsoever.
Now, you've been here for 30 years. Sorry about that. I can do that because we're on camera and
Sometimes it feels like that when I look around and see what I haven't finished.
Well, I was probably here before you.
Yeah.
What do you mean by yeah? Oh, that's just terrible. Look, I just want to know, though, because you've been here for, as we would say, yonks, and that could be any stretch. Tell me how this part of Kosciuszko National Park fared in the last 26 years since its transition. I think it was the Mowanba State Forest to which is now the National Park. How has it changed?
It's actually changed dramatically. I bought this land 36 years ago in 1990, and at that time our boundary on the other side of the river behind us was Mowanba State Forest, and as such the State Forest, you know, managed that. Initially they were going to cut the tall alpine ash that you see over there, but when they started, only a few weeks into it, they determined that it was too wet and that it wasn't really viable, so they hit that on the head. That was in the 80s, but about 10 years after I bought it, around 2000, I had a ranger turn up on the front door here, a nice bloke, and he had a letter to show me, inviting me to, it was their consultation process, inviting me to comment on the proposed transition of this state forest into national park, or Kosciuszko National Park that it is now. And I was quite shocked at the time, and you know, and I asked him how it came about, and to his credit, he was very open. He said that basically it was when Bob Davis was Minister for Environment, and I think it was coming towards the end of his first term, from memory, and he'd done a deal with the Greens, allegedly, to try and ensure that they got a second term. And part of that deal, allegedly, was that Bob Davis had agreed to, during his next term, or it may have even been the first term, I can't recall, but convert 400,000 hectares or 1 million acres into national park, to appease the Greens and I guess assure that he got their votes. he showed me the letter, and it basically said that they were to identify, the national parks were to identify any land, whether it was travelling stock route, crown land, state forest, anything that they could convert that would go towards meeting that obligation. Some might call it a bribe, but that was the the purpose of converting it. And I said to him, is there any identified flora or fauna or anything in there that's needs the protection that would be afforded under the national park? And he said no. And I know, knowing a lot more about it now, I know that there is zero endangered or threatened species up there. So then, it was tick the consultation process box, and then of course it just became national park, and the consequences of that were quite immediate. The first one was that the traditional family that owned this entire valley up until about 87, the McGufficks, they always had the lease on that state forest behind us, what was state forest, and they grazed their cattle there. And I've been coming here since the late 60s when I was a kid with my grandfather, and in those days we used to come up here to whistle foxes for their furs, the days when the pelts were worth money and before the greenies banned it, effectively. But the land in those days, from when I was a young kid in the 60s right up until the national parks took it over, was actually quite well maintained. There was no blackberries, there was no deer. The deer came in after that. But probably more importantly, the fuel loads for fire mitigation just weren't there because the cattle were grazing. But of course, that all stopped immediately. And then ever since, it's just been a downward spiral, just a year-on-year exponential increase in all of those things like blackberries, deer. I could take you for a walk over there. There's parts where the blackberries are 200 metres deep and 6 foot high. So you can't access the river for 200 metres. So, it's... And, people say, oh, that's a bit of a pain, but it's more than that. For example, blackberries are responsible for, according to, the Invasive Species Council's website, the loss of up to 50 native species. And you sort of think, how does a blackberry, affect that? But what the blackberry does is it infests the whole floor, that ground space, and nothing else can get any light in there, so nothing can grow in terms of flora. But then it also does things like it can actually divert the course of the waterway, which of course then causes erosion, And so it's something that should be addressed. But when I, look at my river here, there's not a blackberry anywhere, and I spent quite a few
years. I saw you swimming in it before.
Yeah, right. You must have been here when it was a bit warmer. But
no.
Yeah, but we, I've always stayed on top of them because I hate them. And I actually started spraying over the other side into the park, and then I thought, I better be careful, it might be in strife. So I went and seen the boss of the parks, who was Pam O'Brien in those days, and she was a lovely lady. And I said, look, Pam, I'd worked with her as, when I was the emergency management officer, about things like fire mitigation. I said, look, we've got a real problem out there. And it's really only come about since it was National Park, and State Forest used to come here and ask my permission and drive through every year. And she said, oh, look, Brett, I'll be honest. She said, we're never going to have a budget to do any of that sort of thing in your area. And she said, but if you wanted to continue to do it, I can make you an official volunteer of the parks, and we'll even supply you with the poison and so on. So I took up that offer initially. They put me on a one-day course, how to handle pesticides and that, one of their OHS things. And I started spraying, and I did it for quite a few months during that spraying season. But it was every day. After I was working in those days, it was after work, and in the end, I thought, oh, geez, it's probably not a good thing to be exposed every day to this sort of stuff. So I ended up sort of just giving up. But, in reality, this goes for miles. It wasn't You know, it wasn't going to make a difference. It was more of a feel-good measure, I guess. And perhaps this, you know, I thought naively that, you know, it might be a bit of an interim thing. If they saw me doing it, they might sort of divert some funds. But anyway, yeah, so it really, you know, and I don't want to, I'm not one of the haters of the national parks. There's a lot of good people in there. I don't want to hate on them, but, you know, in fairness, they've been given so much land mass with no additional resources, realistically, and they don't have budgets for this sort of stuff, you know. And this land should never have been on the national parks. As I said, there's nothing endangered or threatened in it, but it's a political thing, you know. And as time's gone by, I think there's probably some truth in this 2030 thing where they're trying to get 30% of all land mass and water mass.
They are.
Yeah.
Look at Tasmania.
Yeah.
Already.
Yeah, so, you know, and we're the meat in the sandwich that sort of really, you know, cops it. But yeah, it has deteriorated sadly on what it was, you know, even in recent decades.
What about the ISC, Invasive Species Council, which I've got little time for. I refer to them as bridge gluers because that's what they used to do, I'm sure, glue themselves to roads at the entrance to Sydney Harbour. So we have the ISC who have, because of Jack Goff, who's the lobbyist from way back, and he knows how to play the game. And he is playing the game and playing it well, considering their objectives. What's your thoughts on the ISC, the Invasive Species Council, and their determination in how Australia should be? I mean, I understand that they want to take us back to pre-Captain Cook, but why stop at that? Why not go back to the dinosaurs? You know, you and I had some pet dinosaurs in our day. Yeah. We're that old. But I mean, truly, and so therefore, an unelected group of people with 130 members are basically determining our direction, and government is listening to them. How do we, first of all, address that, and what do we do about it?
Well, it's very difficult because, you know, if there was an investigation and it was a lot more transparent, would probably be all over pretty quick, in my opinion. I actually personally don't believe that, you know, the people like Jack Goff or those people around him have any real true appreciation or love for the environment. I'm sure they'd argue that vehemently, but
he would call it, one of his videos on TV, bullshit.
Yeah. Well,
good on
I
you,
think,
Jack.
I mean, you know, I think Blind Freddie can see that it's all about political, you know, lobbying and self-interest. It's, you know, these people don't come up here, you know, they might come up for a field trip once a year, or they don't have that, you know, that deep-seated love for the environment that we do. You know, people that have grown up in it, and that doesn't mean we're any better as people, but no one knows the mountains better than the people that live here. And we don't have any, you know, financial motivation or any sort of reason other than the love of the land to actually want to protect it. And the exact opposite is the case for them. You know, it's all about, for the politicians, it's ensuring that they get those people that subscribe to the IC views to vote for Labor in this instance, or the Greens, but predominantly Labor. And, you know, from people at his level, it's about, you know, these jobs and what it brings them. And, you know, I don't know if he's intending to go into politics at the end of all this or whether he has other aspirations, but and then, you know, you got the scientists, their research, you know, their continued existence with research grant funding and things like that, it all depends on this perpetual, you know, science, as they call it, to support their cause, to lobby the government for their, you know, their continued existence. The amount of jobs that these and departments, you know, and the millions and perhaps billions of dollars that are generated by this sort of narrative that the environment's all about to explode and we're all going to, you know, either flood or blow up or whatever.
That's right.
It's a
nice
nonsense.
knowing you.
Yeah, it's, I've been coming in nearly 60 years and the weather hasn't changed at all.
No, it hasn't. But
I'm not saying I'm climate change denier. I know there's cycles and it's changing at the moment. I look at the glaciers around the world and I see that I've been to them and I've seen that they are retreating, but it doesn't automatically follow that we're going to have these climate disasters or climate extremes. Anyway, that's another argument. But I think their motivation is not sincere. And as for the peer-reviewed science and so on, it's like me saying to you, do you agree with what I'm saying? And you write it down and then it's peer-reviewed. It's a nonsense. And I studied environmental science and in those days you were taught to challenge the science. You don't just accept it. Good science is challenging it and testing it. Today, someone from the ANU gets up and says horses eat horses and everyone believes it. Or they say that they're mangy, ribs sticking out, mongrel-looking things, and people believe it. They don't go up there and have a look and see that they're absolutely stunning, horses in beautiful condition. And I think probably my biggest gripe with the ISC, what they've done in achieving the means of getting this aerial culling approved and done, they've claimed that the horses endanger up to 12. That was Jack Goff's statement in the media, that they endanger up to 12 native species. Well, foxes, damage up to 149 native species.
149?
149. They're directly responsible for the extinction of 16 native species in Australia, predominantly mammals.
And chickens.
Yeah. They kill 300 million native wildlife every year. So why is and they've made up this word called whataboutism. I don't know what university student or Jack Goff or whoever made it, this whataboutism, when you bring up this argument. And the argument is, why are you prioritising something? Pigs. I think they're 95 species, 95 species a year, I think, feral pigs cause. There's 200 million of them on the last estimate in Australia. And when you bring this argument up and say, okay, how come you're targeting and spending 95% of the National Parks pest management budget on brumbies, who by your own admissions are responsible for the loss of, or endangering, they're actually not responsible for the loss of one, and they haven't given any evidence. They're saying that they are threatening, which is a whole lower level, up to 12 species. When you've got something like a fox who's directly responsible for 149 species, in other words, 12 times the amount, and yet your allocation of, or your attention in the media is not based at, not directed towards foxes or pigs or blackberry, 50 species for blackberry, but it's a horse that hasn't been proven to endanger or threaten one species. So it sort of says to me that the ISC is all about ideology and nothing really to do with environmental damage. And I think, I'm sure they'd probably admit they're ashamed of our colonial heritage. And there's so much evidence in the things that they do and say that they want to try and erase that heritage.
We get the trolls come out and send us.
Yeah.
You'll learn these things as you become more familiar with electricity. Sorry about that. Okay, we are sort of pushed for a bit of time. If you were, say, a Prime Minister for the day,
God forbid.
God, yes, I was just thinking,
although I couldn't do a worse
a bit like a Stephen King novel on
steroids. We've got in there at the moment, yeah.
Free beer for everybody, and how would you fix it? Because I think this is probably where the federal government should be doing a little more. If you look at Chris Bowen and Murray, as one of our guest calls him, Murray the Toad, because wherever he goes, he destroys the environment, and he's the Environment Minister. But how would you fix it if you had the
national park?
Yeah, the national park. I mean, can't do Australia, it's too much.
I've thought a lot about it. The first thing I'd do is prioritise the pest that's responsible for the most damage.
Okay, that's the IFC, Invasive Species Council. That's the best.
Well, I think they...
But they are. They're destroying the environment. I mean...
Yeah, well...
Anyway.
But, you know, speaking sensibly about what I'd do, you know, the first thing I'd do is look at simple measures like trialling, and ACT and the Machinee National Park have actually started doing this on a very small scale, but trialling small-scale cattle grazing again. And that's, you know, if you looked at what causes the most environmental damage, it's these catastrophic fires that we've had, like the one in 2002-3 that came right over the hill here. Fires have to have fuel. You know, without fuel, they don't exist. So first thing I do is trial some cattle grazing. I would look at permit systems in areas like this where there's 0 endangered species, flora or fauna, and have firewood collection like they used to do in the national parks. Not on a commercial scale, but on a scale that allows people to go in and get what is predominantly a renewable energy source. So you're saving the use of gas or electricity, and you're also doing the environment a favour by removing firewood from areas where there's too much of it. And we have massive snowstorms, you know, metre deep here and high winds and that, so there's stuff coming down all the time. Then I'd look at, you know, things like with the foxes and a bounty program where you say, in the old days, you know, in the 1970s, we were getting $55 a pelt. 2 pelts was a week's wages.
Jeepers.
And, you know, and we were just whistling them. We weren't shooting or anything, weren't spotlighting or anything. We made bed rugs out of them, we made hats, we made gloves. Mum, my grandmother all had full-length fox coats. It was a great use of the resource. And I love foxes. I photograph them in the snow. I think they're an incredible animal. But they, unlike brumbies, they do actually cause massive environmental damage. So you have to kill them. There's some things that, you know, it's just best that they're not there sort of thing. So put a bounty on them, whether it's $10 a tail, $20 a tail, whatever. Do what Chris Min said. Allow hunting in the Kosciuszko National Park.
Incredible.
I don't know where he came up with that.
Sorry, that's incredible.
Yeah, well, it's indicative of the level of advice, the quality of advice he's getting from his policy.
Could you imagine that? A couple of drinks, a couple of beers, get the blood flowing properly. Oh, is that a fox? Or is that who cares?
Yeah.
I mean, truly.
Well, hopefully it'll be a bit more sort of, you know.
Be good luck on that one.
Yeah. But you could take your belt-fed shotgun up there or something and get more if they actually existed. But
12 gauge.
But yeah, just simple measures like that to you know. And as for the brumbies, there's areas where they're beneficial. I don't care what the IC says or any of the other extremists. There is clearly areas where their presence increases the quality of the environment, and whether it's through, you know, fuel management of the grass, whether it's through their manure. Any gardener will tell you horse manure is the best fertiliser you can ever get. So I wouldn't want them in sensitive areas. I wouldn't want them to get up to numbers where they actually cause damage to creek beds and things like that, because, you know, they do, if they're allowed to get to those ridiculous numbers, which are still probably a tenth, if that, of what they actually claim. But if they get too concentrated in one area, like anything, they'll cause damage. But historically, these local people, the McGufficks, the Penders, the Barrys, the Thompsons, all they went up there and they pulled a few out every year. You know, and they're great stock horses, great ponies for the kids, but sensible management. And I think, you know, that would go a long way to sort of sorting out the problems. But I just can't see it happening because, you know, these Muppets that are in there at the moment, they just...
they do what Muppets do.
They've got no idea.
No, they haven't. We have to move on to we've got 432 guests today. There's a busload coming, just to keep you out of mischief. Can you just tell me, because we're at Moomba Huts, and this is one of them, there's 2 on the property. You don't need a full, you can get here without a 4-wheel drive, because wasn't in four-wheel driving.
You could have got in here in your Mazda MX-5. You were a bit tougher too.
Probably could have. I'm just some of those ravines they call potholes. They were very deep. But if somebody wants to find out more about this, truly, this is a magnificent part of Australia. I mean, it sort of takes my breath away. My wife, who always likes to be around civilization, said, I could live here. And that's our next thing. We'll take this place now, just sign the dotted line.
Not enough money in the world, mate.
Don't
Only
be like
way
that.
I'm ever leaving here is in a box.
That one, Jack Goff would organise it for you.
No, it wouldn't be a good idea for
I mean, truly, he's just a bully. So if somebody wants to find out more about the Moonbar Huts, how do they do that?
Mate, there's a website, just Moonbar Huts.
What's the rest of it? Moonbar Huts, what, dot?
.com.au, just sure. I think, or maybe just .com. I'm not sure.
Just put Moonbar Huts in.
Yeah, if you type that in, it comes up. But probably the Facebook page is the best. It's we post on there. You know, every time we get a big dump of snow or something happens.
I saw that the other day.
Yeah,
bit cool for my liking.
Yeah, you Queenslanders.
Don't be like that.
How'd you go in the State of Origin?
I didn't. I don't follow that. It's a stupid game. I mean, I'm sorry. I love the game. Sorry, but I'm an AFL supporter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I weep all the time with my side plays, but so they just go online and put in Moonbar Huts.
Yeah, it'll come up. Yeah.
But it's truly a magnificent part of the world.
Thank you, mate. Yeah.
And I really appreciate your time. This is the Country Telegraph.
The king may rule over land and sea. The lord may live right royally. The soldier ride in pomp and pride. The sailor roam over ocean wide. But this or that, whatever befall, the farmer, he must feed them all. The writer thinks, the poet sings, the craftsman fashion wondrous things. The doctor heals, the lawyer pleads, the miner follows, the precious leads. But this or that, whatever befall, the farmer, he must feed them all. The merchant, he may buy and sell, the teacher do his duty well. But men may toil through busy days, or men may stroll through pleasant ways. From king to beggar, whatever befall, the farmer, he must feed them all. The farmer's trade is one of worth. He's partner with the sky and earth. He's partner with the sun and rain, and no man loses for his gain. And men may rise, or men may fall, but the farmer, he must feed them all. God bless the man who sows the wheat, who finds us milk and fruit and meat. May his purse be heavy, his heart be light, his cattle and corn and all go right. God bless the seeds his hands let fall. For the farmer, he must feed us all.
The snowy mountains, a vast, untamed wilderness where, for over 2 centuries, a remarkable creature has carved out a life against the harsh realities of nature. The wild Brumby. These majestic herds, bonded by blood and fierce loyalty, are a living piece of our heritage. They wake with the sun, navigating the rugged terrain with a grace that has come to define the very spirit of the high country. But today, the silence of this sanctuary is broken, not by the forces of nature, but by the hand of man. A shadow has fallen over Kosciuszko. A 3-month aerial shooting campaign has begun. Imagine the terror, driven from the shelter of the bush by quad bikes, forced directly into the open and into the firing line of helicopters. These family units running to the point of utter exhaustion, desperate to protect their young, only to face an agonizing end. Trapping operations have been halted, humane rehoming efforts silenced. This is no longer management. It is a tragedy unfolding in the heart of our wilderness. Around the world, other nations have found another way. Humane alternatives exist, paths of compassion that respect both the land and the lives within it. Millions of dollars, now spent on eradication, could instead fund a gentler, more civilized future. The heritage of these wild horses cannot be reduced to a line item in a budget. The world is watching. We cannot let silence stand for cruelty. The Australian Labor government must hear our collective voice before the high country falls permanently silent. Stand for those who cannot speak for themselves.
Give a hoot, don't pollute our great oceans. We must remove these garbage wind turbines that threaten our wildlife and fisheries.
And welcome back to the Country Telegraph. I'm Mike Ryan. My next guest is Shannon Byrne, who's a local alpine horseman with a magnificent hat. Not sure if he smokes that stuff around it, though. We'll have to find out later on. He's a descendant of one of the first European settlers in the snowy Monaro region. Shannon is an expert on horses, having trained Brumbies through to Group 1 racehorses. He also knows the Australian bush and the Brumbies very well, having grown up with them. Shannon, thanks for joining us.
No worries, thanks for having us, Mike.
Tell me, you're just... because last time I spoke, you were not impressed at all with what's happening. What's your... Now that we're next to each other, tell me how you really feel about the culling of these magnificent creatures.
It's an atrocious act, Mike. If people really seen what goes on out here, they'd have a whole different view of aerial culling. We see it every time there's an aerial cull on, whether it's horses, pigs, deer. We see the aftermath of it that the other people don't see. And as I say, if they seen that, they'd be on board with banning aerial culling as a control method for any species.
It's actually pretty... I mean, it is invasive, and we have the Invasive Species Council, led by the bearded wonder Jack Goff. Terrible name, Jack Goff, because Australians sort of run words together, and it becomes quite what we're all thinking, Jack Off.
Some of them are quite fitting.
That's right. This is a family show.
Yeah.
But tell me about the Invasive Species Council. How long have they been on the scene in the Kosciuszko National Park?
Well, they've only come on relatively strongly the last, say, 2 or 3 years. Pretty much after Andrew Cox got out of it. Mm-hmm. Then that's when Jack Goff stepped into it and then ramped it up. Jack being a professional lobbyist, he hasn't got any other
skills
or strong points beside his name. Bar he's a manipulator of the truth. Jack, he's...
Tell us about some of the... Because I totally agree with you, by the way. Tell us about some of the misconceptions or the... Jack goes on about, these people are just the wackos that, stood against the lockdowns. And tell me where, Jack, the lockdown was, as any government said, it was exactly what was needed. I think the only place was China. And even then, they didn't like it at the end either, this conspiracy, which is a global conspiracy. But, Jack, you talk about always the misinformation, we're spreading. Shannon, tell us about the reverse role, the reverse of the misinformation.
I'll start with something that which is pretty close to the heart. He said only here a few weeks ago, Brumby running is torture. Well, it's not torture. done properly by skilled people, as the local people here are at catching brumbies, it's probably the most humane method. And it's actually here on Section 6 in the original Wild Horse Management Plan put out by Kosciuszko National Park. And but Jack's twisted it now, saying that national parks barred it in 1982. Well, they didn't bar brumby running in 1982. They barred horse riding in 1982 because the area was turned into a wilderness area. But what's happened in that time, Jack's twisted that narrative to suit his agenda by saying that it was cruel, it was torturous. So that was just one of them. The other one is, you know, he talks about the environment and this and that. And as I've got a few photos here, Mike, you can just see there.
Yes, just up at the camera.
This is Tantangra Dam when it's. Well, wait on. Go back to the start here. Sorry about my paperwork here.
That's all right.
But well, anyway, I'll bugger this up.
That's right.
But
we're getting there.
Anyway, this is Tantangra Dam when it's empty. That's it there.
Yep.
So what they'll do, Jack and his mates will come in and they'll show you the horse prints all through here, and they put all this down as horse damage. But then when you come back, that's what it looks like after the water's gone. It starts to green up, and you get the horses on it. And then within it could be a day or two, that whole dam is underwater again. So Jack will manipulate that narrative. They'll take photos of certain areas where things look bad. But if you went a mile up from Tantangra Dam, it's as good as what you'll find. But the other thing is, he'll tell people where it comes down to two choices with Jack. It's either kill it or save it. He will not look at other management options, to which there's several, you know, but he gives people the impression there's only two options: either kill to save it. Well, we as locals have never had a problem with management, and we've acknowledged quite often that yes, everything needs management, but there's humane ways to manage it, where Jack puts it down as a life or death situation. Now, without horses in that park, or park doing their job and doing a lot of hazard reduction burns, you're going to end up with something very similar to this here. Now, this is the lower Snowy after the 2003 fires. The rains come. Not only did it annihilate everything in its path, which killed off millions of flora and fauna of all things, but you're left with the aftermath of the silt, the runoff, the whole lot coming down the streams. Now, Jack won't show you this stuff because it goes against his agenda. And that was one of the biggest arguments with the Invasive Species Council. Their master is at manipulating the truth. And when it comes down to it, he's manipulating the truth. He's a compulsive liar, really. And people don't see this stuff. So they think, oh, well, Jack's thing, and he uses the excuse all the time that's science-based.
It's a bit like climate change.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
and
we're going to freeze, boil.
It's the only study that was ever done on horses was back in the 90 and 92 by a woman called Jennifer Dyring. And that was in a very small area that could be accessed by foot at the tin mines. That's the only study, but Jack will tell you, no, we've got scientific evidence. But end of the day, they got none. And people listen to him like he's telling reading from the Bible itself.
And the other thing too is to sway public opinion, because what he's doing is, it is many call it an information operation, propaganda. And so what you do is to nudge people, the general populace to a particular way of thinking. I mean, nudging is part of it. You throw in terms such as feral. So these wild horses, wild has this romantic feel to it, that we all would like to be outdoors and having freedom and whatever. That's what wild connotates, which is true. Then you have feral. Now, feral is bad in every way. And if you say those feral horses, which they do, really make the feral part stand out and sound terrible. So the nudging or the propaganda. Tell me, if go back 10 years, if I said to you that's a bloody feral horse, would you give me a box in the ears just about?
I don't know about boxing in ear, Mike, but
thank you.
But you probably wouldn't get much more out of us after that.
Not
anyway.
a beer, not even a beer.
No, you wouldn't be welcome at the fire. Put it that way.
Good on you. Yeah. But I'm just thinking though, the terminology used by, whether it's Chris Menz, Penny Sharp, Chris Menz, who wants to go hunting in the park, by the way, get rid of every bloody horse you can. That looked like a horse. Oh, well, it wasn't. It was my neighbour. Yeah. But anyway, don't worry about that part. So you got Penny Sharp and you got Jack Goff and all these invasive species members, which I refer to as bridge gluers, because they used to glue themselves to Sydney Harbour Bridge. Yeah. They're the sort of ones that are part of this organisation. They are really painting a bad picture, though, and the bulk of Australians are, as we would say, are drinking the Kool-Aid and they're believing it. How do we cut through that? How do we get? I mean, you are an expert. You know the area. You know the high plains. You know horses. Surely that people should be listening to what you're saying because you have that experience, knowledge, that education.
You'd like to think it'd work that easy, Mike, but it doesn't. When they've got the backing of the government, national parks, it's easy for them to put out that propaganda. And, when we say something, they're just hillbillies, old bushfellas, And once again, that's how, they use that narrative to
denigrate you.
Yeah, and discredit what your thoughts are. Now, when you look at, say, someone like the Invasive Species Council, it's, I don't know, do you remember the Muppet Show when we were kids?
I did.
That's pretty
Those
much,
two old ones at the top.
Yeah, it's pretty much the Muppet Show.
That's us. We're that old.
But it's the Muppet Show in 2026.
Isn't that fantastic? But it's very sad. It wasn't so serious. It'd be hilarious.
Yeah.
Muppet Jack.
Yeah, Muppet Jack and Muppet Richard. So
let me go. I just want to take you back a bit. I want to take you back. Sit back, relax, watch this ding, ding, ding. Tell me about, and we have to be a bit careful here, tell me about what you know about Richard Swain and Andrew Cox. Now, I've seen a lot about that, and truly, I'm not going to say much. I'll let you do it, but tell me what do we know about Richard Swain and Andrew Cox?
Well, there's a lot
it's a family show.
Yeah, a lot I do know about Richard Swain.
Mm-hmm.
He went to the same school as me.
Did he?
Back in the day, yeah.
Did you punch him?
Nah.
Don't. It's a family show. I'm just inquiring for his safety.
But back then, he was, it surprised me that he'd come out the way he has come out, and probably the thing that's the most annoying with Richard Swain is him being a Wiradjuri man that speaks on the Garigo country, which if you was fair dinkum bloke, you'd know that you don't, and you followed that tribal way of life. Well, it's a no-no. You don't go onto other people's land and speak and run ceremonies as such. But apart from that, he hasn't got a great record in the local community.
But he's very good friends with the ISC.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I can see that so that goes back to Andrew Cox's day. They've identified him as, well, we can use him, and that's what they've done pretty much. They've picked the dumbest sheep in the mob, and they've used him to push the propaganda and all the corruption, unbeknown to Richard. You can't see